welcome you to Global International and Sugar and Bioenergy International 2025 under the banner of the White Commodity Conclave. It is a privilege to stand before this gathering of global leaders, experts, and visionaries. We have representatives from over 30 countries across Asia, Africa, Europe, and the Americas, truly making this a global and inclusive forum for the edible oils, sugar, and agri-commodities. Since 2006, Dubai has been the home of Global International, a truly global platform where industry titans, policymakers, traders, and innovators converge to discuss the forcing shaping the edible oils and agri-commodities landscape. Hosting this conference in Dubai holds special significance. Dubai's strategic location at the crossroads of the East and the West and its world-class strategic location have established as a pivotal gateway for edible oils and agri-commodities. The city is a vibrant hub where Asia, Africa, and Europe converge for commerce. With its modern ports, free zones, and business-friendly environments, Dubai connects producers with consumers seamlessly. The Tesla's difference begins with the fundamental belief: powerful connections lead to powerful outcomes. We believe platforms for ideas, action, and impact. And in 2025, we are expanding further than ever. From Mumbai to Geneva, Goa to Dubai, this year marks as a significant leap in the event calendar and our commitment to deliver value across continents. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce the theme of this year's conference: Unlocking Africa's Potential in the Global Agri-Economy. This theme highlights one of the profound market shifts we are witnessing: the rise of new frontiers in our industry. Africa is emerging as a transformative player in edible oils, from palm to sunflower to soybean to groundnut oil. African countries are expanding production and reshaping global trade flows. As Africa's agricultural potential is unlocked, it opens new opportunity, shifts supply chain dynamics, and addresses food security challenges in the world. At the same time, across sugar and bioenergy sector, we see a parallel transformation. Evolving technology and sustainability imperatives are changing the sugar industry as we pivot towards bioenergy and innovative practices. Our theme, therefore, reflects a broader truth. Our markets are in motion. New regions are rising, consumer preferences are changing, and we must adapt to an era of innovation, unpredictable market trends, and greater interdependence among regions. Over the next few days, this conclave will delve into these trends and shifts shaping our industry. We will engage in rich discussions on market dynamics, finance and investment, supply chain challenges, and policy frameworks in a changing world. This is a valuable opportunity for each one of us to share insights and forge partnerships that will drive our industry forward. I encourage all the delegates to participate actively, ask questions, network, and exchange ideas. In this hall, we have a wealth of knowledge and experience. Together, we can chart a course for the future of edible oils, sugar, and bioenergy. It is my hope that the connections made and the ideas sparked here will lead to new collaborations and solutions that will benefit all stakeholders. Before I conclude, let me extend a personal invitation to a few upcoming events. Sugar, Grain, Bioenergy Summit taking place in Khandala from the 4th till the 6th of July. Then the Mega Global India taking place in Mumbai from the 24th to the 26th of September with over 1,500 delegates from more than 35 countries. It remains as one of the largest edible oil and agri-trade events. World Commodity Forum on the 10th of October in Geneva. And then Global returns to Goa on the 11th, 12th, and 13th of December, which will be a high-level retreat for leisure networking and strategic forecasting for 2026 and beyond. Thank you once again for being here. Let's make these next few days not only productive, but transformational. Thank you.
Indeed, let's have a nice warm round of applause. Thank you so very much, Mr. Anand Singh, for your opening remarks and welcome address. And now to hear from our esteemed dignitaries, their introductory remarks. Firstly, I'd like to invite onto the podium Sri Atul Chaturvedi, Executive Chairman Sri Renuka Sugars Limited, and the Chairman of the Asian Palm Oil Alliance India, for his introductory remarks. Let's give him a nice warm round of applause and welcome him. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Good morning, friends. We are meeting at a very interesting time with the globalized world in a state of flux. Geopolitical issues are plaguing various parts of the world. Ukraine-Russia conflict shows no signs of abating. Gaza is already up in flames. And now, saber rattling is happening between India and Pakistan. With Donald Trump in the White House, the rules of the game are changing big time, and by the time the dust settles, a new world order would have emerged. During the last few decades, the overriding theme was globalization with WTO as the final arbiter. With American support easing, WTO gradually lost its teeth, and it was only a matter of time before this facade faded and the semblance of respect for multilateral trade agreements under WTO started giving way to bilateral arrangements of FTAs among nations. So now with WTO practically dead, you will have more and more FTAs getting signed between nations. Country after country signing FTAs and starting a new trend in supply chain management. India is also no different. India is on the verge of signing FTAs with quite a few countries. Then comes the Trump tariffs. The tariff war unleashed by America has the potential of seriously impacting supply chains worldwide. With two powerful economies of the world, China and USA, embroiled in a tariff war, the fallout on the rest of the world is likely to be huge. With neither China nor USA blinking, we will have to wait before sanity returns. Whether this standoff and tariff increase will lead to recession in the USA, and I think even Chandrasekhar referred to that, is a million-dollar question. We need to brace ourselves for the turbulent times. No wonder the theme of this conference is trade plus Trump is equal to turbulence. And I must congratulate Kailash Bhai for coining this wonderful line. Trump plus trade is turbulence, and we are living in turbulent times. A cursory glance at the tariff scenario in the last 3 decades would reveal that global tariffs had seen a declining trajectory. This is contrary to our belief that the tariffs have been rising. The tariffs internationally have not been rising, they are on a declining trend. The only place where the tariffs have been rising is in the field of agriculture, and that is largely nations want to protect their own farmers, and India is no different. Currently, trade regulations negotiations between India and USA are happening, and USA is bound to push for opening up of agri imports like corn, soya, apples, cotton, and some pulses and lentils. So I'm sure they will be able to probably crack the Indian agri code this time around. We will have to watch closely how the trade negotiations between India and USA pan out, as it has the potential of altering trade flows. No discussion would be complete without a word on the US dollar. With Trump too rolling out higher tariffs, the global economy is entering heightened trade tensions, which may affect the strength of the US dollar. And we have already started seeing that. Analysts and commentators feel the Trump tariff action has the potential of significantly weakening the value and global standing of dollar. Some potential triggers for dollar crisis could be erosion of trust in the dollar, geopolitical shifts, unpredictable US policies, and the de-dollarization efforts of many countries, including China. As the world's reserve currency, a dollar crisis can have significant ripple effects across global financial system, potentially leading to market turmoil, and we will all have to brace for that. A decline of dollar status could also accelerate the shift towards multipolar currency system. From the American standpoint, a weak dollar would definitely benefit exports and curb imports into USA. And curbing imports into USA can have ramifications for the rest of the world, including China. Friends, and all this brings me to the last point, and that is, with USA shutting its doors to the rest of the world, or attempting to shut the doors to the rest of the world, regional play would become more and more important. Being an incorrigible optimist, I feel every dark cloud has a silver lining. With America practically closing its doors to the world, new doors are bound to open, and nature abhors vacuum. Regional cooperation is likely to be the next big thing. With India, China, and the rest of Asia home to around 5 billion people, we need not look too far to find a market for our products and services. With Europe in decline and America creating barriers, it would not be incorrect to say that the next few decades will be of Asian and African dominance, or rather resurgence. We sincerely hope the leadership in Asia and Africa realizes this huge opportunity waiting to be tapped. I'm reminded of famous lines of Robert Mugabe, and we have Zimbabwe representation also in the form of Mr. Narottam Somani. The famous lines of Robert Mugabe, who once said, "It's time to look east and not west." So friends, it's now time to look east and not west. Dubai is ideally placed geographically with political stability to become the hub of economic activity. I'm sure with Dubai's importance growing in de-globalized world, Tesla and their brand Global will gain in prominence not only for learning emerging trends but also to network and make new friends. I'm sure the deliberations during the seminar has been clearing many cobwebs, though the new cobwebs might actually keep forming. So happy trading and happy time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abdul, for the very insightful address. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I take pleasure in inviting up to the podium Mr. Sandeep Bajoria, CEO, Southern Group and Chairman, Global Oil Organizing Committee India, for his introductory remarks. Thank you, sir. Let's welcome him with a nice warm round of applause, please.
Good afternoon, everybody. We are very eminent dais here. Who's who, chairmen, managing directors, and CEOs of the various companies from India and Dubai. Our friend from new CEO of Al also with us. And thank you very much, sir, for coming to this conference today. Because since the first conference we started in Dubai, it was around 20 years back. IFCO and Al have been our continuous supporter in Dubai. So special thanks to both of you. As the topic goes, turbulent times. Yes, times are turbulent, but I believe there's time to make money also in these times. The volatility is so high that if you are very smart and if you use your skills, probably great amount of money also can be made into it, because being a pessimistic is no use. I think we must make use of the time. The tide will settle. I think in the next 3 or 6 months, everyone will set this way or that way. And that is ultimately going to settle. I think Mr. Trump also will get tired out by then. Because anything which you create turbulence, the first turbulence comes to you inside, and then you create turbulence outside. So I believe that's going to happen, and things are going to settle down. And we will have, as far as veg oil is concerned, I don't think so any change in the flows in India. We have been buying 3.5 million tons of sun oil from Russia, Ukraine, Argentina, Romania, Bulgaria. That will continue. We have been buying 4 million tons of soybean oil, mainly from Argentina and Brazil, and 300K from US. I think US flow can increase from 300K to maybe 400-500K. That could be possible, but mainly Argentina and Brazil will be our main suppliers. As far as palm oil is concerned, Malaysia, Indonesia are the main suppliers along with Thailand. So, as our veg oil in India is concerned, with 16 million tons of import, worth $16 billion, I don't think so there is much turbulence on the flows on that side. Yes, definitely we will have issues when suppose imported corn is allowed from US, and that time for ethanol purposes, and it produces DDGS. As it is, DDGS made out of the domestic corn is creating a lot of competition for oil mills into India. So the solid extraction industry doing various seeds like soybean, rapeseed, cotton seed, rice bran are facing a very tough time because DDGS is very low price commodity, and for oil mills to compete into that is a big challenge. So that could be one of the scenarios that we could have tough time on the saving on meal. But as far as oil is concerned, I don't think any problem. Anyway, I look this as an opportunity, and I believe all of you also should look this as an opportunity. And we have a great session coming to today. A lot of speakers and panel discussions are there. And today evening you have a fantastic entertainment which is arranged by CBC, Bollywood type entertainment, fashion show, music. It's not that you will get bored from 9 to 6 in a conference. From 7 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., you will have a great time. I can promise you that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Sandeep Bajoria. And I'd like to welcome Mr. Amshul Malik, Managing Director and CEO, AWL Agri Business Limited, India, for his opening remarks.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Like me, I'm sure there will be a lot of people who must be looking for this Globe Oil International Dubai. I love this event. I come here, enjoy meeting different people from different countries and learn. 2 days of packed sessions, debate discussions on several commodities, throwing opportunities and challenges in each business gives us a lot of opportunity to learn. So much has been discussed since last evening on the Trump Act, uncertainties, geopolitical tensions, climate problems, beef fatigue problem, Malaysia, Indonesia issues. Amongst all these uncertainties, I was thinking that there is one certainty, and that is India will continue to be the fastest growing GDP and economy in the world. That is for sure. So that remains certainty, and with 6.3 to 6.5% GDP growth, 1.45 billion people, 50% less than 25 years population, getting more educated, getting more income, will continue to spend money on good food. And surely India will become a place where it will look at a better demand and supply of essential commodities such as edible oil and oil seeds, sugar, rice, and of course pulses. These are the 4 big things that India either imports or exports and have a dominant share on that. With this certainty, if we look at the country's consumption, last 3-4 quarters have not been good. The rural market has not responded the way we all expected, and the rural did consume less. And we have seen edible oil consumption going down at least from a high of 5% to -2% in the last quarter. Wheat flour consumption went down. Branded wheat flour, which was growing at 18%, came down to 2%. Basmati rice growing at 11% came down to 5%. Sugar, which was growing, has come down. All the essential commodities which we see today, the brand branded share or the volume shares have been coming down. That is because the pressure on the middle class on the food inflation has been very, very strong in the last 1 year. From a high of 12% food inflation, it has now come down to 4%, and that's a big relief. The government of India, seeing this, the middle income under the pressure, have doled out or given the benefits of almost $12 billion of tax relief to the middle class, which started from 1st of April this year. And that is going to bring in a lot of cash into the market, and people are expecting that more sales of food products, more of automobile, two-wheelers and mobile phones and all that things will go up, including clothes and garments. So the country is looking forward to that. Besides this, good news is that a good monsoon has been predicted. This will be the third good monsoon. So if good monsoon comes, 60% of the farmers who depend on agriculture, monsoon, rain for their crops will get that benefit. Hopefully the country will start reviving soon. And once it gets going, I am sure the demand is still going to be much higher because our per capita consumption is much lower than the neighboring countries. So we as an organization will deal in all the type of staples, believe that going forward, in amongst all uncertainty, at least we have a country in which we stay has a lot of potential to work on, and we will look into the opportunities within the organization. That is what we are thinking, and we are looking at it. But global uncertainties also provides opportunities to make good money if you can make it good call and right call. So that is how I look at it. But global for me is a place where I interact and learn a lot. Thank you, Kailash, for this event, and thank you all. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Abdullah, for your thoughts. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite up to the podium Mr. Sanjeev Asthana, CEO, Patanjali Foods Limited, India, and President of the Solvent Extractors Association of India. Let's welcome him with a nice warm round of applause.
Thank you, and my esteemed colleagues on the dais and everyone. The topic is, of course, very interesting, and since we speak about Asia and Africa overall, what I wanted to say was that nearly 70% of the world's farmers reside in these two continents. And for Asia and Africa to collaborate, so the timing of the conference, the theme overall chosen is of enormous value, because not only do we have a shared destiny, there's also an enormous scope and an opportunity in a world which is changing rapidly on multiple counts for both food and agriculture, whether it's climate change, whether it is smallholder farmers, whether it is the issue of food security, or it is issues relating to the trade, how it's playing out. And I think coming back to turbulent times with Trump and tariffs and what is it's throwing, not only is it a time for Asia and Africa to come together and collaborate, but we have clearly a shared destiny as we take our respective businesses, our agriculture systems, our trade systems, our respective opportunity of how we could collaborate and work together. I think it is going to be of very critical importance. So let me pick a few areas in which it is impacted. So one is that clearly the world trade order, as we all knew, looks like a thing of the past now. Whether it is the regional trade groupings, whether it is the inter-country, the free trade agreements which the countries are signing, whether it is specific agreements that the countries are arriving at between the trade bodies or otherwise, this whole issue of bilateral dealings between the nations, between the grouping of countries, is the order of the day, which perhaps is going to last a while. And India is no different. So, and Asia is no different either. So let me pick up, India has got multiple large issues with the US right now, which both from the non-tariff barriers over a period of time, or the tariffs threaten to have a big impact on how the trade is going to get conducted, especially in our food and agriculture. There are multiple issues which are there. the choices in front of the policymakers are also very complex. So one policy which is taken, it has multiple different impacts, on different segments, different sectors. How does the government respond to that? And I think that is where the policymakers also not only need a guidance from the industry associations, they need counsel from the industry, they need well-researched, data-backed arguments as to what the optimal response for the country has to be while negotiating such agreements, whether at the regional grouping levels or a powerhouse like the US. If we talk about the issues that India is trying to grapple with and deal with right now, in terms of the corn imports that we have, so there's a structural corn shortage which is happening in the country. The ethanol industry is, trying at the right prices, and yet the US has been clamoring for exports into Asia and into India. How does the policymaker respond to that, especially in light of the DDGS, which is having a huge impact on the soybean meal, both the export markets and the domestic market? How does that deal with it? And if once you start dealing with that immediately, how the unintended policy consequence of corn areas eating into the soybean areas, where the soybean prices continue to trade way below the MSP prices. So the issues many a times from a trade and the industry, we make them very simplistic, that this is a solution, this is what the government has to do. When the government has to grapple with the kind of complexities, both at a national level, and they have to address the political economy that they have to deal with on the agriculture side. They have to address issues related to the obligations the nations have towards the multilateral trade order of especially the WTO. They have to comply, and the trade-offs that the nations do when they're negotiating for the free trade agreements between the nations and the respective concerns that those countries have, and how do we create a balanced and a well-structured approach, the response has to be articulated not only for the political economy of the country, but it also must be appealing to the nations that one is negotiating with. So, one is the policy side that deals with the challenge, and second is how does the industry respond to that? Whether it is about the, do we expect that under the US is intensely pressurizing that India should import, soybean seeds, the GM soybean seeds. And especially the logic and argument is that if we've imported the soybean oil, which is a GM originated soybean oil, then why should we not import the soybean seed? Likewise, there's a corn industry, there's a poultry industry, there's a meat industry, and there are a series of things which India tends to depend a lot on the US and the world order at large. So what it tells us is that we are going in for very interesting times, as Asia as a region, Africa as a region, and what kind of response these two continents, the respective countries within that, what kind of response do we give to the changing world order, the changing world trade order, to define it, and how it is going to determine the future of the next decade or the decades ahead. And the challenges as we take it up as the industry, in terms of both what we try to influence the policy, the investment decisions that we make, the challenge of how do we address the range of issues which are going to impact both the agriculture and the food systems in the respective countries that we are speaking about is going to be very defining in the decades to come. And I feel that this is these kind of forums that we have, Global Dubai, which is a very interesting one because it brings to the centrality of the relation between two large continents, the largest number of consumers in the two continents, larger number of farmers, the biggest the consumption area, the region of the world, and this whole north-south engagement, both on the trade and the business front, how it is going to define, how it is going to challenge the existing system, and what the industry response with is going to define as to how the next decades are going to be. So very relevant time for the conference. I really look forward to next 2 days of deliberations, speaking to a range of actors and range of stakeholders who have assembled for the 2-day conference. It is going to be very interesting, and we look forward to listening to very interesting viewpoints that will emerge out of this conference. So Kailash bhai, big congratulations in terms of organizing it. I think both the quality of speakers, the attendance that I see a lot more outside than inside. I'm hoping that over 2 days, people would take the best benefit of this. And we look forward to engage actively in terms of what happens, what comes out of it. And I think we should not only work towards preparing a white paper of the deliberations that happen, which becomes a core document of how do we engage with the policy side and the business side, both in Asia and Africa, in a more meaningful way. And that tends to straighten the turbulent times that we speak about and smoothen both the business and the trade side of the industry. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Sandeep Asana, for that very insightful address. And now, we'd like to take the pleasure of inviting onto the podium Mr. M.D. Ramesh, CEO, Africa Improved Foods, BV, Rwanda. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Let's have a nice warm round of applause and welcome.
Good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for the honor. A great global platform like this, in a global city like this, is always a great idea. Thank you to the organizers for putting this together and this great collection of speakers at the dais. While everyone has spoken on the global issues, I wish to zoom you all in to an insight at the African opportunity. I have a little presentation for you that might make it easier to digest. So just take a look at what I have. Let's take a quick look at what does the African growth momentum look like. And for that, a 4.2% growth prediction for Africa in 2025 is not a bad number at all, given the backdrop of where the world is. The important point to note is that this 4.2% growth is on the back of the two largest economies which comprise almost 30% of Africa's GDP, South Africa and Nigeria, punching way below this, which means the rest of the African economies have really risen to the occasion. With $94 billion in FDI in 2024, mostly outpacing most of the other developing economies in terms of FDI, Africa has not done badly at all. And finally, with the African free trade zone opening up, we expect 52% unlocking of what this 3.4 trillion market to be made available to anybody who is willing to participate. Which basically means an equality is being established where the best processors and the most efficient manufacturers can find space anywhere they want in Africa because the market then becomes one. Now here for me is the most important crux of why Africa is so interesting. We must put this in the background of the fact that by 2040, please note my words, 2040, 40% of the world's workforce between the age of 20 and 35 will be African. Which therefore means that it's an opportunity we can't afford to ignore. 58% urbanization, and you know that urbanization implies the double income, low kids kind of a trend, where convenience foods and quick retail is a critical component of that piece. If 58% of Africa is going to be urbanized by 2030, the size of the opportunity for edible oils, red meat and sugar, which all of you know, goes hand in hand with increased affordability. And the middle class will be at 1.1 billion. Now, the whole African continent's population is roughly comparable to that of China and India, and if 1.1 billion out of that sits in the middle class, you can imagine the kind of spending power we're talking about. And that naturally implies, like I said earlier, modern retail, packaged foods, and convenience foods. All of these are opportunities. A closer look at what does the retail opportunity look like. The current size of this opportunity is about 585 billion, expected to grow to about 850 billion in the next 7 to 8 years. Which therefore means branded convenience foods are all going to see a significant pace. The current market of the African consumption of edible oil is about 14 million tons. Now, to understand this gives us two levels of opportunities. One, On a per capita basis, this implies that Africa is about 1/3 of the global average. And with the pace of growth of population that we are talking about, you can imagine the exponential growth that this market can undertake, especially with higher affordability. On the other hand, the fact that just 3 million tons is grown in Africa implies there's a significant gap in terms of food security, in terms of import substitution. So there are all kinds of opportunities that are available in the edible markets alone. And here's a look at what the average consumption size per capita is for the rest of the world, the major markets, India, Europe, US, and Sub-Saharan Africa. A quick look at what the top country per capita consumptions are, and you can see the world average versus Ethiopia and Nigeria, two large consumption markets in Africa, are way below. So that's where a large part of the potential, on the basis of 16% of the world's population residing on the continent, is. Now that brings us to the crux of the matter, a significant nutritional and food security challenge. Imported food on the continent this year, we believe, will touch about $110 billion. It's a bill that Africa can't afford. It's a bill for which Africa does not have a foreign currency. So it's a clear challenge, which means many countries will choose not to import, and you know the result of that. The African population that faces food security challenges is double of the world average. Undernourishment, mostly ignored by most governments, is a challenge that really requires attention, and quick and cheap attention. And finally, if, like I said earlier, 40% of the world's workforce is going to be African, then we as the world owe it to ensure that that world population that gets into working class needs to be nourished and ready to take on roles. What does that mean to all of us in the private sector? Local food production, primarily to battle the import substitution, as well as to meet the growing needs, is a critical opportunity and an obligation, I think. Value chains and small and medium enterprises need to be strengthened for this to succeed. Nutritious food, scalable and affordable, will need to be made available. Eventually, the food has to become accessible, which means retail and distribution has to be in place. And lastly, a large opportunity for scalable, nutritious, cheap food is open and available. This really is the size and scale of the opportunity that's available on a Pan-African basis. The challenge, of course, is how do you make this happen? I'm sorry to say, but you cannot get that on a free presentation over here. We can have a one-to-one discussion around that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. M.D. Ramesh, for that very informative presentation. And now we'd like to welcome Mr. Sanjay Sancheti, Country Head, Olam Agri India, for his introductory remarks. Welcome, sir. Let's have a warm round of applause.
Good afternoon. I had come here, thinking that I would be soaking in with all the knowledge and inputs which I would get from the luminaries here. I didn't really expect to be on the stage, but thanks very much to Grow Oil for giving me this opportunity. Without repeating what some of the people on the dais have said earlier, I would just say that the kind of turbulence that we have as a trading company, we always feel that this is a great opportunity for us, because turbulence and volatility, these are always considered to be great opportunities. I think smarter businesses would always reorient themselves in such a way that they take advantage of the situation. I think the biggest trend which one is seeing is this whole, the blurred lines between various commodity value chains, which is happening now. I think one of the indicators of that is that in Blue Oil we also have a session on sugar and bioenergy, because all these value chains, be it edible oils, be it sugar and bioenergy, be it corn and other grains, which are feedstocks for ethanol. These are all now having crisscrossing lines, and typically companies which are working in these kind of sectors have to contend with a lot of turbulence, with a lot of policy volatility which is there, and business is becoming very difficult because of that. But the smarter businesses have adjusted, and they have started working or orienting their businesses accordingly. So businesses have to look at how do they adjust to this, and a lot of these businesses are actually straddling these value chains, and that's where the opportunity lies. I also foresee two different trends. One is on the trade agreement side. A lot of these regional and bilateral agreements are happening, but the departure from the past is that the governments and their advisors have become smarter, and now these agreements have to be more win-win situations rather than the kind of agreements that were there in the past, where the success ratio or the exploitation of those agreements by both the sides was not really very fair and equitable. Case in point is India's trade agreements with, let's say, ASEAN or Korea or Japan, where the exploitation rate from the Indian side was pretty low. So that's something which is inhibiting these trade agreements, and countries are not able to come to quick resolution there, and trade agreements are taking that much time to get finalized. But ultimately, their success will depend on how they are win-win agreements for both sides. The other part is that businesses and countries won't have to get used to a de-dollarized world, and that's where one is seeing that some of the countries, let's say China or India, they work very well in terms of creating these bilateral agreements and arrangements where they are able to work outside the dollar world and create space for themselves and their partners, and create these kind of frameworks where business and trade can happen outside the framework of the dollar. And businesses will have to adjust to their reality and ensure that they are able to work well under that kind of a framework. I also see a trend where there is a lot of value chain aggregation which is happening, and pure play trading companies are finding it very difficult to have sustainable businesses, and value chain aggregators are the ones which are able to sustain themselves in the agribusiness arena. Most of the traders are now moving into value chain aggregation, more value addition, and moving closer to the consumer or moving backwards towards the farms. And these are the kind of business models which would sustain over a period of time. And pure play trading businesses are getting elbowed out either due to government policy related issues or because of these aggregators who could be either parastatals or could be large corporates who are straddling the entire space from upstream to downstream. So that's something which businesses have to really look at very, very closely, because governments, as economies are getting closed and the liberalized trade order is collapsing, and more tariff barriers are coming up. Unless and until you straddle that entire space, it is difficult to scale businesses in today's world. The other part which one is seeing is that how do you build sustainability and climate resilience in your model, in your business model, and how do you work with the value chain and specifically with the farmers to make them more climate resilient. And this is specifically important for the value addition based business models where the processing industry depends a lot on the farming system for for maximizing their throughput. So a case in point is the maize value chain in India. As the distillation capacity is coming up there, one of the needs of the hour today is for the industry to work with the farmers to ensure that there is resilience and growth in maize production over the years, so that the kind of capacity buildup which is there in the industry is completely exploited, and capacity utilization for all the players is maximized. So that's where the need of the hour is to again go back and connect very well with the farmers, create very strong farm factory linkages, ensure that productivity is increased, climate resilience is built up, and there is sustainable production, more linearity in production, so that throughput can be maximized for the value addition industry. So these are some of the pointers which came to my mind over and above what some of the people who had addressed the audience now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Sanjay, for the insightful address. And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to welcome to the podium our special guest, Mr. Turgut Yeginaga, CEO of Rare Foods, Rare Resources International LLC, UAE. Let's welcome him with a nice warm round of applause.
Hi. Very happy to be in front of you. As Rare, we're also very happy to support Globe Oil for more than 20 years now. No, it's okay. It's okay. I wasn't really prepared, but we were actually scenario planning yesterday. So 2 cents from my side. I think we need to separate the current global picture into 2 parts. One is the fundamentals. Fundamentals are before the whole President Trump coming into the picture. I think overall industry, we were in the low cycle. There is low prices, farmers are not happy, our customers wait for the last minute to book anything, so who's stuck in between with low margins? It's our industry. But right now, the non-fundamentals with Mr. President Trump, it really changed the whole thing. When I look at the overall economic values, I see a lot of challenges in it. Even though past few weeks the stock market went up globally, bond market hasn't really followed up, so that it's not really leading. And when I look at the overall picture globally, I see the whole ingredients of a serious recession. I think as industry, I have 3 key messages. The first one is we have to really look at risk management tools. We really have to, the second one is really we have to diversify all our supply chains, and we have to build resilient new markets so that once this thing hits, at least we have some places to maintain the required capacity utilizations going forward. Thank you again. Very much looking forward to meet each and every one of you. See you soon.
Thank you so very much, sir. And now I'd like to take a moment to request our esteemed guests amongst us, our very special guests. Ladies and gentlemen, we have amongst us Her Excellency Isa Ismail from the Republic of Uganda. Ma'am, if we could have a couple of words from you wishing this conference success. Let's welcome us to the podium with a huge round of applause. Once again, Her Excellency Isa Ismail, Deputy Head of the Mission Embassy of the Republic of Uganda. Ma'am, please.
Thank you so much. I want to say welcome everybody for this ceremony, and I want to say greetings from Uganda. I wasn't prepared to make a speech, but I will make just a few remarks. I was liking the theme of unlocking Africa. But I was looking around and I was saying, but how can you unlock Africa without African participation? I'm not seeing the African Farmers Association here. When we are discussing about unlocking Africa, are you going to do it on your own? So I think it's very imperative that when we're engaging in this discussion, invite us as Africans to come and discuss with you and crack our deals and see how we change this whole supply chain scenario. They have said that China is the global factory of the world. But for us in Africa, we think that Africa is going to be the global food basket for the rest of the world. So if you don't partner with us now, then you're not going to get any food for your people. But I want to say that I really have loved to bring my people from Uganda, who are the farmers, who are in the food production, to come and discuss with all these people who are here and see how we can move forward in unlocking the potentials in Africa. I want to give an example of my country, Uganda. 80% of our land is arable agricultural land, but only 35% is used for production, which means that more than 50% of our land is idle. 20% of our land is water resources, but only 5% is used for commercial farming. And this is almost everywhere in Africa. And yet, as they are giving statistics here, we are the most starved people in the world. Our children are not getting enough food. Why? If you have all the resources to be able to provide food for everyone. So I think this is a good way to show the world that Africa is the next big thing for everyone in agriculture production. So I would like to thank you so much for the organizers for inviting us here. But I hope that next year when we have this organization, a similar activity, please ask us to invite our agriculture. They want to come. They're looking for opportunity also everywhere. Our Minister of Agriculture, we have our own association of agricultural farmers who want to meet potential partners who they can scale up the production to meet all the demand they're talking about. So with those few remarks, I wish you all the best and thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Eric, for blessing this conference with your words. And now it gives me immense pleasure to welcome up to the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, from the Republic of Maldives, we have Ambassador Mohammed Hussein Sharif here with us. Let's welcome him with a nice warm round of applause. Sir, if you have a couple of words from you, blessing this conference.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, good afternoon, namaste. At the outset, I want to thank the organizers for inviting me. Although for about an hour I've been wondering why I've been invited here, because I'm in an audience of esteemed entrepreneurs and leaders of industry and trade, and here I am, a politician and a diplomat. Although I have to say I learned a lot, wondering why I'm having the pleasure of being among you. Interesting though that, contrary to what I would have thought, the most prevalent word used over the past hour was not oil, it was definitely not trade, and nor was it energy. It was Trump. So, I think us in politics and government say that if you can achieve anonymity in absence, it means you've done really well. So, I'm not going to make this long, just to say that with the tariffs, we of course, as nation state as well, were listening to Mr. Trump's, or President Trump's tariff impositions and carefully going through the list to see where we fall, if in fact we would be there, being one of the smallest countries in the world. And we were pleasantly surprised to find out that His Excellency had only thought of 10% for us, which I think is the lowest round, along with the UAE and some of the others. And I think there's an explanation for that, because we have very little trade with the US. When we were children, we were taught that if you dig a hole from the Maldives, you would end up somewhere in the Midwest in America, just to show you that we are on the opposite side of the globe. But of course, more importantly, our future, our success, our well-being is much more closely tied up with Asia, and in particular South Asia, and in particular our dearest and nearest neighbor, India. While India in South Asia is the largest economy, we are the smallest. We are also the lowest line, and we are also the most sparse. We only have 500,000 people. But I want to leave you with, I think, a pertinent thought from an experience that I had being in politics for 30 years and having had the honor and pleasure of brushing shoulders with a lot of very prominent people and very learned people from across the world. But one man who we'll always remember who I always remember and cherish was the former Indian President, His Excellency APJ Abdul Kalam. I had a unique audience with His Excellency dating back about 15 years, I think. See, we have a regional organization, as most of you will know, called SAARC. Just as there's the European Union and the Southeast Asians have their own organization, we have SAARC. It's called South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, but unfortunately we don't cooperate with that. That organization, which has its own trade arrangement, is often forgot, and that is in very much support of the governments of the day. All of us. But back in the day when we had one of these summits in Delhi, as it was customary, the leaders of the 7 countries were invited by the head of state of India to a very private and very beautiful audience in Rashtrapati Bhavan. And I had the honor and pleasure being the head of foreign service of the Commodities at the time and spokesman, so I was there, listening to what was going on. And His Excellency came up, being of course the scientist he is, with an innovative idea which even to those of us who are not industry experts came across as being very simple and very beautiful. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized just how powerful His Excellency's suggestion was. He suggested that in addition to having what we had and we still do have, which is called SAFTA, which is the South Asian Free Trade Arrangement, His Excellency's suggestion was to simplify the whole thing and ask all 7 member states to pick just one commodity, which we thought we had a comparative advantage when it came to exports. So he opened the floor and he asked our friends in Bangladesh, what would you like to put into the basket? And they said jute, which of course is a major export from there. Then our friends from Pakistan, and they said mangroves, very tasty. And of course, then we had India, and they said sunflower oil or edible oil. So that was why I thought about it. And then our friends from Sri Lanka said they would like to throw in their tea, the Ceylon tea, which we all love. And finally, we were left in a conundrum. We are the smallest. We have to come up with something innovative. So we just said tuna, of course, which is what we have in abundance, being a country of 99% water and 1% land. That brings me to my final point, which is that we have very little arable land, and therefore agriculture is not a major sector in the Maldives, which unfortunately means that about 80% or more of our food stock are actually imported. And India will know very well that most of the imports do actually come from India. And surprisingly, the second biggest is the UAE. And therefore, if you speak to the FMCG market leaders in the Maldives, they will tell you that there is a ready supply for the local industry as well as the more important and the more prominent tourism industry in the Maldives. Because although we are 500,000 people, we welcome 2 million visitors every year. So if anyone is interested in expanding their market share and reaching out to a new economy, a new country, the Maldives is always around the corner. Thank you very much and have a lovely evening. And wish you all a lovely and successful event. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, sir, for that enlightening address. Well, ladies and gentlemen, what a fabulous moment it has been with insightful addresses from each of our dignitaries up on stage. And now, on behalf of everyone present here, it is an opportunity for us together to felicitate all our esteemed dignitaries. And I would like to request Mr. Sandeep Bajoria and Mr. Sanjeev Asthana. Gentlemen, if you would kindly present felicitations to everyone present here on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, I do request each and every one of you to join in with a nice warm round of applause as these are being done. Firstly, ladies and gentlemen, let's have felicitations presented to our very honorable guest, to Her Excellency Isa Ismail, Deputy Head of Mission Embassy of the Republic of Uganda. Thank you so very much, ma'am, for being here with us and blessing us here with your presence. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.